As Christians, I really believe we need to stop the over-the-top hyperbole and manufactured shock that is used to attack other Christians, kind of like Sam is doing here.
Okay, I just found a video of Cliff Connectly saying the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Spoiler alert, it's not actually crazy. Cliff makes a statement that doesn't align with Catholic theology, and Sam is going to try to make it into something that it's not.
And I need you to see it.
He really didn't need us to see this, but it works well for his apologetic goals.
Who on earth told you that the New Testament was put together by the Catholic Church?
This is only the first part of the crazy comment, but Cliff is right to doubt such an idea and question it. The Catholic Church didn't put together the Bible.
Well, sir, if that actually did happen, I wouldn't believe in Jesus.
Yes, this is a bit crazy, but Cliff is using the same sort of hyperbole and manufactured shock that Sam is, which makes sense as they're both apologists. They just happen to have different perspectives. And after all, Cliff is correct here. The Catholic Church didn't put together the Bible, so there's no worry that Cliff has to stop believing in Jesus.
I am so shocked that he said this.
Let's be clear. It's more of a manufactured shock that is being portrayed for rhetorical reasons in order to further his own apologetic narrative. It's play acting, which I think is the worst part of apologetics.
Because in the 4th century, at the councils of Rome, Carthage, and Hippo, the Catholic Church compiled the New Testament and canonized the Bible.
This is simply wrong. I have a longer video about this on the tube, but the history is much more fascinating than the Catholic Church simply putting it all together. For instance, the Old Testament was already set long before that, but we seem to only be focusing on the New Testament here. So first thing, we know almost nothing about the Council of Rome. Yes, a canon of scripture was present, but it wasn't created there. The same goes for the Council of Hippo. Again, we know almost nothing about it. We do know more about the Council of Carthage, which seems to reaffirm this list of scripture, but none of these councils in the late 4th century compiled this list. A decade and a half prior to the Council of Rome, we have the 39th Festal Letter of Athanasius, which lists the 27 books of the New Testament, and sticks with Jewish tradition for the Old Testament. This list was composed in 367. As a frame of reference, this was prior to the official establishment of the Catholic Church, which appears to be around 380. But we can push this back further. Jumping back to 350, we have Cyril of Jerusalem, who lists 26 books of the New Testament. Cyril leaves off the book of Revelations, so we are almost there, but if we jump back to 330, to Eusebius, we are told that the Apocalypse of John, also known as Revelation, is disputed. Some churches accept it, while others reject it. Speaking of Eusebius, he does break down what the various positions of the canon were. He lists the books that were universally accepted, which were the 4 Gospels, Acts, Paul's letters, which he included Hebrews with, 1 John, and 1 Peter, and Revelation. He does admit that Revelation is disputed by some, though. He also lists books that were disputed but recognized by many as canon. These include James, Jude, 2 Peter, 2 John, and 3 John. So within these 2 lists, we have the New Testament books. We can go a bit further back, though, to Origen around 230. There's some debate here, but it appears that Origen produced a canon list that includes our 27 books. Now, he doesn't specifically state 2nd and 3 John, but he mentions that he has epistles, plural. He also doesn't list Revelations in his homilies on Joshua, where he breaks down the canon list, but he does express that it should be canon in other places. So it's not necessarily a direct hit, but it's also not necessarily a miss. Finally, we should also probably mention the Muratorian fragment from around 170. As the name implies, this is just a fragment, a damaged fragment of a poor Latin translation of a Greek original. So we aren't fully certain what is there, but we can be certain that it contained most of the text of our modern canon. It also contains a couple of texts, though, such as the Apocalypse of Peter and the Book of Wisdom. It should be clear, though, that the canon was established long before it was officialized, though. Basically, what we have then is that the Catholic Church later on took centuries of prior work which set on establishing a canon, and then took this already established canon and just declared that it was official now. There are 2 more things here, though. First, in the early 4th century, as an aside to the Council of Nicaea, we get Constantine commissioning some copies of the Bible. This was half a decade prior to the Council of Rome, and most interesting here, we may have a couple copies of these Bibles. Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Vaticanus may be products of this commission. Second, though, it wasn't until the Council of Trent in 1546 in which the Catholic canon was officially approved. So even though prior councils had agreed on a set of text, It wasn't official until millennia afterwards, and that was partially in response to Martin Luther deeming that the Deuterocanonical books were not scripture, but still useful. To be clear though, he didn't remove them from the Bible. By this time, we actually have a few other canons as well.
The same Bible that Cliff reads today, the Catholic Church gave to him.
That's simply not true. The Bible Cliff reads is a product of centuries of debate about what scripture was and was not. This debate predates the Catholic Church. By the time Catholics made their canon official, we already had different canons as well as a change in what was considered Jewish scripture. The latter idea would have a direct impact on Protestants' thought. This is just bad history that is meant to establish Catholicism as the authority, which only works if you're already Catholic.
Such a hatred towards the Catholic Church that if the Catholic Church has done something so pivotal in history, that if that is true, Cliff wouldn't even believe in Jesus.
This isn't necessarily hatred. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Cliff. I think his whole process of going to colleges is laughable apologetics. And overall, I think it's clear that I'm not a huge fan of apologetics in general. But seeing enough of Cliff's material, I don't think he hates Catholics or the Catholic Church. I don't think he's expressing hatred at all, and in the end, he's actually correct. What Sam is doing here, though, is just apologetics. It's manufacturing outrage, which I would say is rather hypocritical here.
The truth is, the Catholic Church did compile the Bible. So Cliff, what does that mean for your faith now?
It means nothing for the faith of Cliff, because Sam is wrong when it comes to the history. Sam made an uninformed argument in regards to the canon, all for apologetic reasons. Because let's be honest here, it's all an act. It's play acting, just like Cliff was doing.
It is very disappointing seeing clips of these Protestant apologists when the truth is being revealed about what they actually think about the one true church.
It's very disappointing seeing this play acting by all sorts of apologists who all want to claim true authority. It's disappointing seeing Christians place themselves upon pedestals while demanding others submit to the authority of their truth. It's disappointing seeing Christians divide themselves while being so blatantly hypocritical. And they do it all for show. We can do better.